This week on Peaceful Co-Parenting Podcast. I believe that great things can come from a painful experience. Each time I received a message, I wondered, how could this be improved? How could the app have helped me to curb this harassment, belittlement, and abuse? So I created an app that gives the victim the power to control the communication that is coming into their phone. Welcome to Peaceful Co-Parenting Podcast, where we discuss strategies and tips to improve your co-parenting situation, especially if it's high conflict. I'm Bianca Balogh, co-parent, mother, and entrepreneur, creator of Peaceful Co-Parenting Messenger app, and believer in turning challenging situations into something positive. Hey everyone, this week I'm solo. I usually have a guest on the show who can share with you a valuable resource or a discussion that can help with co-parenting issues. But today, I am here by myself, and I'd like to talk to you about Peaceful Co-Parenting Messenger app by myself, because I'm in fact the creator of this communication tool for co-parents. It's another resource available to you, and it's an application for iPhone and soon Android. And this app helps to keep the peace between co-parents. It's definitely a labor of love for me, and it comes from my heart. So I wanted to share with you the story of how the idea came to be, a little bit about the app so that you can understand how it might be able to help you and your co-parent communicate. So let me start with the story of how the idea came to be. So in August of 2019, I was essentially considering a restraining order against my co-parent due to continued nasty messages and what I considered to be harassment. I would get multiple messages a day that were belittling. They were very long messages, and it was really impacting our ability to co-parent well. It was just super unproductive, and it was like somebody coming through my phone attacking me multiple times a day. So it just was at a total loss. I had asked him many, many times to stop, and I was just kind of at my wit's end. I really felt like no one should have to live that way. I don't know if anybody out there can relate to what I'm saying. If you have felt like somebody has attacked you before through your phone, I just felt like there was, how can I stop this? What can I do to keep this person from attacking me? I apparently asking him nicely to stop and, kind of saying, hey, I consider this harassment. These types of messages don't have anything to do with our children. I think at first I didn't realize how to answer those nasty messages I was getting. I kind of would sometimes even attack back, which was totally not the right thing to do, but I was angry. So I would try that to say, oh, well, let me give him a piece of his own medicine and see if that would help him to stop, just to be like, oh, this doesn't feel very good. That didn't work. That just escalated things. So I started just not responding, which was also, I'm not so sure the right thing to do. I mean, it was just so hard to know the right thing to do. I think the more I ignored those messages, the more he would become infuriated that I was kind of disregarding his input, which he felt like was like teaching me or telling me how it was, or just like, sharing his feelings with me. And so he felt like he needed to do that. I felt like it was like his therapy, where he was like unloading on me made him feel good. And so, back up several months, we had gone to mediation. So I'd gone to mediation with my co-parent, and I'd asked the mediator if she knew of any way to curb the abuse that I was experiencing. Did she know of any resources that could help? And she said no. There was nothing available that would help the abuse, that basically he just had to stop. And I started to look into it. I was like, there has to be something. So my research revealed that no app existed to help control the abuse and to give the control to the victim so that they could stop the abuse, because many times the perpetrator it works for them. They don't want to stop. And so when I looked into it, I really thought, you know what, there's a gap in the marketplace. I was actually using an app with my co-parent. It was called Talking Parents, and it was recording, the harassment, which was a good thing. It was documenting it, but it was just allowing it. I actually reached out to Talking Parents and told them kind of what was going on and that I needed some help with curbing the harassment. And they just said there wasn't anything that they could do to help. That there wasn't, and I get it. They can't make people be good co-parents, of course. That left me with no help. So what I did was I went to court. I asked the court to help me, and I gave examples of the harassment. What I had to do ultimately was file contempt of court against my co-parent. And we had our day in court. Actually had to pick a couple of different things. Like when I filed contempt of court, I had to pick either punitive or remedial, like on how to deal with, I guess, the contempt. So remedial means that he could fix it. Punitive means that he needed to be punished if he was found guilty. I ended up picking punitive because the remedial, there wasn't anything that he could go back and do to fix the hundreds of messages that were just completely inappropriate. So the burden of proof is very high for punitive contempt because he could be fined or go to jail for up to 6 months if he was found guilty. I had to prove there was an order. The other party had knowledge of the order. The other party failed to comply with the order. And the other party had to, had the present ability to comply with the order. So I'm not an attorney. I represented myself, and I presented our parenting plan, which stated, hey, we recognize and agree that it is in the best interest of our children that a polite relationship exists between us. And so that's where the contempt came in. I felt like he was not following that portion of the parenting plan. So he did sign the parenting plan and agreed to it. But when we were in court, I didn't ask him that like an attorney would. Like I didn't ask him and say, hey, Mr. Co-parent, is this your signature dated July 15th, 2018? I didn't ask him that. So one of the judge actually said, well, you didn't verify that the other party had knowledge of the order because I didn't say that. So I figured, hey, he had his signature on the parenting plan and that was evidence enough that he was aware of it. He had signed it. He obviously read it. I guess that wasn't so obvious because what ended up happening was I technically lost the contempt, but I felt like it was a win because he got a 15-minute lecture on what was appropriate co-parenting communication. And the judge said, that she found his messages totally out of line. I left feeling I was on my own again, though. Like I was like, okay, went to court, asked the judge for help. She did pretty much lecture him, but I was left to manage this problem by myself, though. Now, during this time, like this takes forever. It seems like family court can take many, many months. So while all that was going on, where I was waiting for my day in court and kind of preparing my evidence and stuff, I was developing the idea of Peaceful Co-Parenting Messenger. The idea for this app stems from my experience with my co-parent. And that's why I'm sharing this with you. I don't want to throw him under the bus at all. I'm coming through this very difficult experience of probably, I would say, 2.5 years of feeling harassed and abused through these text messages. Like when we were in person, he never would be that insulting or belittling. I'm sure he was going through a frustrating time himself. I just felt like maybe he should see a therapist and work that stuff out on his own, that wasn't something that I could really help him with. And unloading on me was super unproductive for our kids. So I thought, you know what, if I was going through this difficult time, I bet other co-parents are going through this too. And when I went into Facebook and started looking at posts for co-parents that were dealing with, say, a high conflict co-parenting situation, I could see that they were struggling with communication. I mean, people would post their screenshots of their text messages between their co-parent and themselves, and was like, how do I respond? This is ridiculous, And I really just felt like there's a lot of people out there that need help, that need some guidance. And I really also felt that the victim is the one who needed the control, because if you leave it in the hands of the person who's the abuser, they're going to just keep doing it because it serves them. Like there is one app out there, Our Family Wizard, that does provide a tone meter, and the tone meter will let you know if the message that you have just crafted is aggressive, or maybe it has some bad words in there. It kind of picks up on that and lets you know, but it still gives that person the option to go ahead and send it anyway. And I'm kind of like, man, even if we were using Our Family Wizard, I'm sure I would have still received those messages if he had the tone meter on and was paying for that. So I believe that great things can come from a painful experience. Each time I received a message, I wondered, how could this be improved? How could the app have helped me to curb this harassment, belittlement, and abuse? So I created an app that gives the victim the power to control the communication that is coming into their phone. And it's based on this experience. So I really thought long and hard every time I got an abusive message, how could I have helped this? How could the app have curbed this? And that's where it's coming from. So I am not really a techie person. I mean, a little bit I am. Currently I'm a nurse. I love being a nurse. It's a wonderful job. Prior to that, earlier in my life, I was a broadcast journalist, so did some TV news reporting and anchoring, and that led me to a video production company that I started, and that was super fun and wonderful. But then I took a total 180 turn and became a nurse, and so that's what I currently do now. But I do have a little bit of that technical background because of the video production and the editing piece and the design piece as well. Also with my video production company, I would do like marketing videos for small businesses. So I have a head for that. And I think that came into play when I developed the app. So let's get into the app. Love to tell you about the features in the app that make it awesome. Awesome for all co-parents, but especially for those in a high conflict co-parenting relationship. Okay, so number one, it's secure. All the messages are kept in the cloud and only you can access them. Super, super secure. Number two, completely unalterable. So when a co-parent sends a message, they can't delete it. It can't be altered. It is documented and it's kept forever in the cloud, and you can access that anytime you wish with a report. So we'll talk a little bit about reports a little bit later. Number three, you can see when messages are sent and when they're seen. So that's part of the documentation of when a message is sent. And then also you can see when your co-parent reads the message. So they open the app, they look at your chat, and it documents when that happened. So at least that much. Sometimes they ignore your message and you don't get one in return. Or any kind of message saying that, hey, got the message, it's received, I saw it, but at least that they saw it. So number four, you have the ability to limit the characters in the messages that you receive from your co-parent. So this was a problem for me because I got very, 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 very long messages from my co-parent. And I would have to sift through all the belittling words to see if there was anything related to my children in there. And it got to a point where I was like scared when my phone would give me the tone, the message sound that I received a message from my co-parent, because I was like, uh-oh, now I've got to look at this message from him and it's going to be so nasty. And I would like pick up my phone, get in there, scan. Oh, and then I'd be out. I was like, okay, there was nothing in there that had anything to do with my kids, or maybe I read the one or two sentences that did have to do with my kids, and I was able to at least stay up to date with that. So this led me to create this feature where you could limit the characters inside of the messages received from your co-parent to 50 characters. Now, that's not much. They really need to get to the point, and they might even need to use shorthand to communicate with you. But the goal is, if they have limited characters, they need to get right to the point, and they have to leave all the nastiness and the garbage and the belittlement out of that message. So 50 characters per message. Number 5, you can limit the number of messages per day. So if you only want to receive 1 message a day, 25 messages a day, whatever that looks like for you, you can set that. Once your co-parent reaches their limit, then there's no more messages allowed for that day. They have to wait to the next day in order to send you a message. Because my idea behind that was I just didn't want co-parents to be harassing each other by just sending back-to-back-to-back messages. And that leads me to the next feature, which is that you can set a waiting period between messages so that you don't get those back-to-back messages. Okay, I love this one because it really can help to diffuse an emotional exchange, and it gives co-parents the opportunity to think about every word they want to say to their co-parent before they send it. So we all need to take a breather sometimes when we have a heated exchange. And you know what? If you really want to send that message, you are willing to wait whatever the time period is that's set. So you can set a waiting period for 5 minutes all the way up to hours if you wanted to. Could be 20 minutes, 45, 2 hours. You set that waiting period. You have the control. And that will help with those back-to-back messages if you're feeling like you're being harassed, like I was. You can also, another feature, you can also set the time of day you want to receive messages. Now, this came because I would always receive these late night messages like at 9 or 10 o'clock at night from my co-parent that were really upsetting. Like I said, they were very nasty, and I get a message, and of course I would want to read it. I look at it, and it's upsetting, it's nasty, and then I'm up the rest of the night. My heart, gets pounding, and I'm just like, my adrenaline's pumping, and I'm angry. And that's not helpful. You need your sleep. You need to take care of you. I need to take care of me. And that's why I put this feature in there, is that you can go ahead and set a curfew on the messages from your co-parent, which is awesome. You could say, all right, I'm not going to receive messages from my co-parent after 7 p.m. And then I'll open it back up at 6 a.m. or whatever your schedule looks like. And that's what's nice about that, is that you can set the time of day you want to receive messages. Now, going a step further, if all of those features that I just talked about are not doing it, like you're still feeling like you're being harassed by your co-parent, even with the limited characters, you can choose what's called canned messages. There's a list of pre-written messages that commonly come up between co-parents in the app. And if you canned your co-parent, if you had this feature selected, they would only be able to use those pre-written messages to communicate with you. That way, co-parent business still gets done, but they cannot free text message you. None of that. Now, what's cool about these pre-written canned messages are that they are semi-customizable. So you can, there's a map feature in there that if like you needed to meet at a certain location, you can change that up, but it's only the map feature. They can't, like I said, free text message you. Your children are also listed in like a drop-down menu. So like if you have multiple children, you can select the child and say, child A has a doctor's appointment at date and time. Okay, so the date and time can be changed and the name of the child can be changed, but nothing else. Okay, so that's kind of nice if you really are if you were like me and you were considering a restraining order, but you knew that wasn't the right thing for your family. You still needed to be able to communicate about certain things. Then you could choose the canned messages. Like one of them in there is, I'm running X minutes late. So it could be, I'm running 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late. I mean, those are the things that are really helpful to co-parents when you're waiting for, like, say, an exchange. So let's talk about reports, because this is another one that I really spent a lot of time thinking about, because I didn't really like the report in Talking Parents. It was very confusing, and it was hard to follow. And so I spent a lot of time on really making the report be user-friendly and helpful. Okay. So you can set a date range on the report. You don't need to export the entire communication, because I know with, like, Talking Parents, we had like 350 pages with tiny, teeny type, and it was just too much. Besides, most of the time, in my experience with the courts, they just want to see the most recent communication. They don't have time to look at the entire communication. So you can set a date range of, like, let's say the last 3 months, 6 months, or whatever. And also, in your chat with your co-parent, you can mark messages as important or offensive. Okay, so this is nice because you can keep track of it as you go. And if something is, you want to highlight it, then you do that in the chat. And then when you run the report, it is actually highlighted. Like in yellow, I think it's important is highlighted yellow, and then offensive messages are highlighted in like a pink/red highlight. So they really stand out. One of the things that was really hard for me was rereading our communication. Like when I would have a court date and I'd have to go back and look at, let me find the most egregious, nasty messages that he ever wrote me. I'd have to go back and reread everything and highlight the ones that I thought were the most egregious. That was so hard. It was like reliving the trauma of these messages. So I thought, you know what, if you can keep track of it as you're receiving them, then when you run the report, it's already there. That's excellent. So you can actually select whether you want those messages highlighted or not. You can select whether you want attachments in your report, like pictures and things. And so the report is hopefully very useful for you if you have like court, or you want to share the report with your attorney or your parenting coordinator. The other thing in the app that I really love, and one of the features, is the resources page and the tip of the week. So the resources page lays out books and classes and podcasts that may be interesting for you if you'd like to learn more about how to have better communication with your co-parent. So the tip of the week is just some advice to keep you positive and looking towards just good communication with your co-parent that week, just things to think about to keep you on track. So hopefully that's helpful for you as well. Now let's talk about the cost of the app. Actually, the app is free. It's free to use. Why? Because I didn't want any kind of barrier to entry for anyone, especially the person who's sending the nasty messages, or the one who's the difficult co-parent. Let's say I didn't want a barrier to entry. I wanted it to be free because there should not be an excuse to use the app. You can use the app for free, but if you want to use some of those features I just mentioned, where you're able to limit the communication, right? The limited characters, limited messages per day, canned messages, waiting period, those kinds of things, the time frame, limiting that when you get messages, then you would subscribe to a either monthly cost or an annual cost. So the monthly cost is around $9 a month, and then the annual is around $60 a year. So that ends up being about $5 a month. So for the cost of 1 or 2 cups of coffee, you can have peace of mind. Hopefully that is in your budget. If you are in this situation and you would like to have a little more control over the communication with your co-parent, then I would definitely say sign up. And hey, you can use it for free until you really need those features. Then you can subscribe. And that's what I recommend, because some people have asked me, hey, how do you get the offending party to use the app? They're the difficult one. They're not going to want to use an app like this. And I see that. I understand that is a challenge. And that's why I recommend that many co-parents set it up early in the process, as this is the app that they're going to use. that it's in the parenting plan, that you can state, this is how we're going to exclusively communicate with each other, peaceful co-parenting messenger. Do it when it's okay, when maybe you're not in a high conflict, kind of a volatile time with your co-parent. Do it when times are better and maybe they're a little more agreeable. You go ahead and get them to agree to use this app. Sometimes you do have to go to court, and I wish my app had been, on the market at the time I was in court. I would have requested it. I still may go back and ask. Things actually have gotten better with the messages, so that is a total plus, but sometimes you do have to go to that extent. I wanted anyone to be able to try the app, and so if you would like to just try it out and try those premium features, you can email me, and I will give you a promo code, so you can just try them out for free. I'll give you like the monthly promo code. Be happy to do that so that you can try it out for a month and see if you like it. Now, what I found is that some people need more encouragement to stay within the boundaries of what is acceptable. Some people can respect boundaries, and other people think it's all about them and they don't consider others at all. And this is where the app can come in. It forces your co-parent to stay within the boundaries that you outline. That's right, that you outline. So I do really feel like boundaries are self-care. It's about taking care of yourself so you can be the best person that you can be. As I think back during those really difficult times with my co-parent, it was so stressful. I wanted to be a great mom, but I knew that it was spilling over into my attitude. It was spilling over into my sleep and how I took care of myself. Yeah, I just really want to encourage you to prioritize yourself and set those boundaries. Yeah, sometimes it takes experimenting with what's going on to, create a better co-parenting relationship. For high conflict co-parents, often less is more. Often less is more. And you may need to block your co-parent from all other communication. I do want to throw that in there, that I strongly suggest using just one form of communication, a written form of communication, and something that's tamper-proof and unalterable, something that you can really keep track of, and so that you have that documentation. You just never know when you're going to need it. Document, document, document. What I love about the Peaceful Co-Parenting Messenger app is that it flexes with you on your co-parenting journey. And when things are good, the app is just simply keeping all your communication together in one place. When things aren't so good, you may need to use your communication boundaries for greater peace and harmony, and that flows down to your ability to co-parent well and the happiness of your children. So the happiness of you and your children is absolutely, the most important thing. And so if you have any questions about the app or you want to give me some feedback, I would absolutely love it. And that's why I do throw out that promo code, because hey, use the app for free and tell me what you think. How could it be improved? What do you hate about it? What do you love about it? I really, really want to hear from you, because that helps me to make changes in the app that make it better able to serve your needs. It's all about you. It's about creating more peace. So let me know. I'll be adding some links to the show notes on the app that you might find helpful. And I am wishing you peace today. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining us this week on the Peaceful Co-Parenting Podcast. I hope the time was well spent and you got a lot out of the episode. If so, please rate and review the podcast. I would really appreciate it. If you're interested in sending me a feedback message, asking a question, suggesting a podcast topic or guest, or downloading Peaceful Co-Parenting Messenger as a tool for better communication with your co-parent, go to peacefulparentapp.com or see the links in the show notes. Have a great week, and as always, stay peaceful.